It's Spoilerin time, folks. This is the show that is the companion show to Cordkillers. On Cordkillers, we talk about how to watch things. On this show, we talk about having watched them. This week, we're going to talk about The Boys, Episode 7 of Season 2, Lovecraft Country, Season 1, Episode 8, and Star Trek Lower Decks, Season 1, Episode 9. I'm Tom Merritt. He's Brian Brushwood.
Hello, back from the dead. I recovered from COVID.
Oh, was that not you last week?
No, that was totally me.
On Spoilerin time, we didn't have anyone but me and Bryce. So I guess it wasn't you. Yeah,
that was my ghost.
I did do the whole show.
All right. Well, it's very good to have you back, Brian. Let's start off talking about Star Trek Lower Decks, episode 109, which, funnily, like all the tracking sites that I use, didn't have this one in until the day after it aired. So I wasn't sure that I'd watched the right one. I was like, wait, is this right? But it's called Crisis Point, and it's about a holodeck program that Mariner reprograms. It's one of Boimler's programs that she reprograms to cast herself as the villain. And I think, Brian, we kind of got a hint at where Mariner's story could go.
Well, okay, I want to loop back on that, but first I just want to say, this had what might be the hardest I've laughed out loud of the entire series. And it's a slow burn, but when you figure out that, oh my God, there's a different style guide for Star Trek movies than there is for the TV show. And you realize, oh my God, they're doing the movie. They're doing
all the movies.
Yes. They're doing like they just goes over the slow approach and the teary eyes and the over rotation.
I hated that. The 7 minutes.
Oh my God,
that was a Star Trek reference that did not work. If you don't know Star Trek, absolutely.
That's straight from Wrath of Khan, right?
No, Star Trek, the original movie, Star Trek.
I thought they did another thing like it. I think they did it, versions
could be both.
Of it. Yeah. But oh my God, dude.
Oh, Jesus.
It was, I
got the lens flare. The lens flares while they were in the bridge was very fun. I did like that.
Yeah, and then Mariner's evil villain is a pale Khan imitation at points.
They also did the exact scene from Star Trek Generations. They did the sign off that they did in Star Trek: The Undiscovered Country. I think they managed to get every single one.
I don't know if they got Generations, but I may have just
No, they
missed
did.
it.
That was Generations was the one that they crashed the saucer section into the ground. That's what only they did it sideways on a hubcap rolling down.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because Generations that was the whole end act is that they crash landed.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh man, so good. But the takeaway for me on top of me going like, Bryce is not going to like this episode as much, was Mariner fighting herself and having her holographic self tell her the truth about her. That's like, no, here's why you do what you do. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's the path for season 2 for Mariner right there. They just laid it out.
Well, and this goes back to my prediction that we were gonna see real growth, real development, and real progress. They're not gonna stay lower decks. They're gonna get past their broken aspects, and much like Buffy the Vampire Slayer, right? It's like that show you watched everyone grow. I think we're gonna see a similar path for lower decks.
But she stayed a Vampire Slayer, and where I was getting hung up, and I think it's maybe silly of me, is like, yeah, but they're not lower decks anymore. And the show's called Lower Decks. And I'm not just being literal. Like, obviously the show can go all kinds of places and keep its name and it doesn't matter, right? We have a sports network called ESPN, for goodness sake. But I was like, the magic is that they're the underdogs, that they're the unwanted. And this interaction with Mariner with herself, I was like, oh, but she stays the underdog. She stays the rebel if she follows that path that the holographic Mariner is telling her about.
Yeah, and you can still have them be the underdog, only now, it's season 7 and Mariner, there's only one opening for a captain position, and there's some privileged Slytherin that's gonna, come in and, she's the scrappy underdog who has to study all night, the night before the test or whatever. I feel like there's plenty of room for them to stay conceptually lower decks as they climb the ladder.
It was just so much fun, and I can't wait to watch episode 10, which still doesn't have a date or a name in the IMDb database, which is unusual.
How do you rank this episode among the other stuff that we've seen?
Of the other Lower Decks episodes? I'd have to really think about it, but it's definitely in my top 3.
Yeah, I think Bryce pointed out the fatal flaw is like, this is the most Star Trek pandering we've ever seen them, which is why we loved it so much.
I understand why. I really was not into this episode very much. All of the references and stuff. Clearly, I could the ship thing. Then they did it so early. But the other thing was like, I get it. I get it, Mariner. I get the Mariner thing. All right. I'm excited for next week. It seems like next week on the season finale, they're really going to hammer because Boimler finds out that she's the captain's
that's right.
daughter.
Yeah,
right. No, I'm glad you reminded of that. That's a huge revelation and a betrayal.
Yeah. That she kept it from the crew. So I'm looking forward to that. I get it. Mariner's conflicted.
Mm-hmm.
A betrayal of Boimler, but also a betrayal of Mariner for Boimler to let on that he knows.
Well, first of all, it's a betrayal of the captain. Captain Freeman, is that her name?
Mm-hmm.
Like, as far as I know, that's not kosher for you to. Well, I guess I don't know. Maybe the captain gets to decide what is true and not true on her ship. But Mariner, obviously, she scraped everyone's personal private logs to create all these simulations.
Boimler did that.
Boimler. So Boimler, yeah, he got his just desserts. Yeah, he's a bad guy. He did a bad thing, and he
a
has
hacker.
to deal with
Messed
it.
up.
All right. That is Crisis Point, episode 9 of season 1 of Star Trek Lower Decks. Let's talk about Lovecraft Country, season 1, episode 8. I need to get these. Jigabobo is the name of this one, where Diana is chased by a thing that actually literally gave me chills.
Oh my God. That combined with the creepy song that got creepier and creepier and
the real song about knocking on the door, like that's a real song from the 50s and they made it as creepy as possible. I'll never be able to see that song the same way again.
No, it was legit horrifying. You know, what's funny is, I was like, wow, I watched all this TV and here we are. I got to get caught up on Lovecraft Country. I'll do it in a minute. And I realized, it's so good at the disturbing parts that yes, I always finish an episode saying that was really good television, but I never want to watch an episode because I know unpleasant things will get whether it's body horror, whether it's gore, whether it's genuinely creepy, scary stuff.
When the Cthulhu monster jumps out of the road and saves Tick, I was not scared. I was not even really disgusted. I was more like cheering, like, oh, good, they saved Tick, yay. Nothing else in this has really made me involuntarily shiver until I'm shivering right now just remembering those two ragdoll, creepy, grinning, creepy song
I would
dancing.
love to know how they shot that because I started to pay attention. There is a precision to their movements and an intentionality that makes me wonder. I mean, they certainly look like children, but it's so precise and so good that it's hard for me to believe that any 9-year-old can nail that. And it makes me wonder if they're doing
small
like
dancers. Was it CG?
Like I'm tempted to believe it was some kind of like a motion capture thing with choreographers or something.
Mm-hmm.
Or I don't know. Or maybe they get the kids and they just tell them to hit certain poses and then they just animate the frames in between.
It could be just really small people who are really good at dancing.
Ooh,
and they've got young kids doing dance stuff, right?
Yeah,
I think you could get real kids.
Man, but that level of creepy, I don't want to believe any 8 or 9-year-old kid can achieve that level of creepy.
Yeah, can you imagine a high school flags team doing that at halftime?
This is one of the few episodes.
It gave me chills again. I just did it to myself.
This is one of the few 2-parters. Like we didn't really get to closure this week on either story, right? We just saw the climax of Tick's story, and then it was not an entirely
self-contained episode because we still don't. Could we see Diana? Oh, that was the other thing. When Diana's grandpa comes in and can't see that she's being attacked, so he holds her, which is exactly what he shouldn't have done because then they get her.
Wow. The
But yeah, apparently next week she's gonna need an exorcism or something.
I did like that they were very flat and direct with Atticus saying, yeah, it's a time machine. I went to the future. I got this. And then it's like, oh yeah, what'd you see in the future? He's like, white people rioting. It was very short. Somebody just put this, somebody with a robot arm, like they didn't show it to us or anything. They just like described like some girl with a robot arm put this in my hand and kicked me through. And it's like, I thought that was cool that they just level with us on the things that like that's in the box. Just take this for granted. We're just going to straight up tell you this happened and then we're going to move on. And that is a new piece that is on the chess puzzle right now. And off we go.
We also had a little, I don't know what to call it, with Ruby and Christina and Christina's alter ego, William.
And the 0G sex scene.
Oh, I still have 10 more minutes on this episode, so I've already gotten two very interesting things to look out for.
I see.
But
yeah, it felt like I didn't know why we were resetting the pieces with those two. I feel like it didn't inform me much about what is going on there.
We also have Atticus with his two lovers at the table.
Oh, that was a powerful scene. Like that was cold-hearted when he just dismisses Gia, and it's Letty who's like, because she loved you.
Yeah,
that's why she's here.
And that's
like,
and
oh, so good.
It's like in a way that not even Atticus seems prepared to accept. Letty immediately sees the consequences of all of this. Like
she's like, well, I know why I would do that if I were her.
Right.
Right.
And she realized how much trouble this is going to be for their burgeoning relationship.
Yeah. I'll be honest. This feels episode 8 like the first episode of story. And maybe it's like you said, Bryce, because we didn't resolve everything. It feels like, oh, next week I have to tune in to find out what happens, rather than an anthology-like story that fits into an overall narrative.
Yeah, I guess the only other major thread is we see the beginnings of Atticus mending fences with his dad.
Oh, they do the spell. That's right.
Yeah.
Oh, right. You might not have gotten it. They end up doing the spell.
Yeah, I know. He said, yeah, I got to the part he said he was going to do it, but I'm talking specifically about them sitting on a street corner and him speaking candidly about being in the closet and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good stuff.
Yeah.
Anything else on Lovecraft Country?
We got a lot of magic this week. I mean, literally them doing the language of Adam stuff. Even the cop was doing it.
I kind of like the idea of moving more to a place where magic is about as amazing. Like first time you see a blaster in Star Wars, you're like, what the heck was that? And then, it's like, yeah, everyone has blasters. That's how Star Wars works. I feel like we're getting there in Lovecraft Country with magic.
That is Lovecraft Country Jigabobo, episode 8 of season 1. Let us talk about the penultimate The Boys, episode 7 of season 2, Butcher, Baker, Candlestick, Maker.
Can we start with the end?
Sure. Let's start with the end.
Are we supposed to know who's squashing heads like grapes in that big bloodbath at the end?
We had a big debate because we're like, is that the woman from the hospital who got out? And then I was like, yeah, maybe. And then I pointed out that in the preview, previously on, they showed the CIA agent get her head squished. And that was before the hospital woman was out of the hospital from the mental hospital.
Oh, right.
So
unless she's just
I had
weaponized.
assumed back then that it was an implant.
See, I did too. When I saw it, I just pictured Gus Fring just hitting button.
And this implied that it was not, that it was some kind of soup.
But it's also the reason I still think it's the implant is because I think it's kind of a trick. I think we're supposed to think it's that psychic who did the thing.
And it's just a bunch of implants?
Well, because it was only employees of Vought.
Mm-hmm,
Those were the only people who got it, except for the two loyal ones, Homelander and Stormfront.
And the PR lady, I don't think she got.
No, she made it out too.
Yeah.
Didn't they? I thought fake AOC's head blew up.
Then I may be wrong about that.
I don't remember exactly. I was
AFOC.
Like AFOC. What the two that I noticed for sure is the guy who's about to testify, who's a former employee of Vought and would have a chip in him. The replacement for A-Train, other fast running dude, employee of Vought would have a chip in him. And then outside of that, it was a lot of noise. I didn't really notice.
Yeah, I thought the Congresswoman escaped because I kept waiting for her head to get squished, and I didn't remember seeing it.
Maybe that's the case. Turns out it was kind of a big riotous moment.
Yeah, it was a mess.
Yeah, turns out it's almost as if they wanted us to be a little bit confused as to what was happening.
You know what they say about magic? Convince people 2 + 2 is 5, and then blow everyone's heads up, and no one will care anymore.
Yes, indeed. What else happened? We have this is the same episode that had the super uncomfortable crowding out of Homelander's baby mama, where like in that this is my new piece. We got it that kind of divorced dynamic, although not exactly a parallel, given the fact that Homelander raped her and then kept her imprisoned to raise this child.
It's slightly different than a normal marriage in that respect.
Yes.
I was kind of pushing for like maybe she can talk him out of it, maybe she can do anything, until Starlight said he'll still have a mommy. I'm like, oh yeah, this is a done deal.
Not Starlight, Stormfront.
I'm sorry, Stormfront.
Yeah, I was about to say.
My apologies to Aaron Moriarty, Annie January, and the entire Boys family. No, Stormfront. When Stormfront said, "Oh, he'll still have a mommy," I'm like, "Oh yeah, this is done and dusted. She's over."
Is this?
I'm surprised they let her live. Honestly,
is this also the? Oh man, I think that was specifically to torture her. I think that their evil, truly evil, sadistic nature are like, that'll be more miserable for her is watching all of this from afar, trapped in a cell. Speaking of trapped in a cell, this is the same one where they busted Starlight out of Vought, right?
Correct. Yeah.
I thought that was kind of. I'm starting to accept the cartoonish rules of The Boys, where, like, on paper, in my logic mind, for people without superpowers versus a mega corporation with all the superpowers.
You would think there would be cameras.
Or a stereo repair shop guy just walks in and rescues a superhero. But again, it's like there's a logic and a set of rules for The Boys, and one of those is that Huey cannot be killed. And so weirdly, I was like, I'm like, sure, I'm along for the ride. Let's go.
Yeah, it was a weird thing to have Jimmy Olsen from Smallville just lead him right up into the Sevens arena and set himself on fire. But it was within the rules of The Boys for that to happen, and it was a perfect explanation of how Huey's up there, where he can in fact save not only Starlight but her mom. And really score points with the future girlfriend that way. Yeah,
that's if you have the means, I highly recommend it. Rescue your future mother-in-law from certain doom.
It's gonna go a long way. Yeah, for sure.
I was a bit bummed that they so abruptly cut off anything with the lamplighter. I felt like they were building some depth to that, too. And then I
liked that storyline a lot.
Well, because he was so troubled and cursed by his own actions, and I enjoyed watching him kind of, I don't know, I was hoping for him to make a noble sacrifice, but instead he just made this sacrifice, and there was nothing noble about it. In fact, he had an opportunity to do something and just screwed over some.
If there's another thing about The Boys that occasionally just kind of rubs me the wrong way, it's that they try to put too many things in each episode. And the thing that was one too many for me was the Scientology party with the deep NA train. I know we have to keep that B plot on simmer.
That is my favorite thread of this whole season. Far and away my favorite thread.
But I didn't need it in this episode. It felt like one too many things to be like, oh, okay, we're also got it. I forgot that was there. But maybe that's why you have to have it, is so I don't forget that that's going on.
If anyone's read up on Scientology, you'll be familiar with the fact, like, man, so much of The Boys is not subtle, very not subtle. Exact phrases. Like if you are over the age of 35, you're able to point, like, that's taken from George W. Bush's speech right after 9/11. This is taken from that. That's a repurpose of this. And
the Tom Cruise Katie line in last week's episode when he's talking to Katie Couric.
Oh yeah. And in this case, the language
actually talking to Katie Couric also.
This is the one where they did the party this episode, where they essentially, in Scientology, they call it a suppressive person, which means basically they're exiled. However you felt about them,
that's why I didn't love it. It's like, this is the only scene we really got for them, and it was to tell me a thing that I already could have guessed, which is like, oh, they're going to suppress people, and that person who helped the Deep out when he was first getting in is now persona non grata.
Yeah, I don't mind it. I'm so in love that they're doing that I was like, I didn't mind a just brief drop in to say like, hey, this is a thing. It's still alive.
And I guess the only thing we haven't talked about is the Butcher and his dad. Billy Butcher's dad, John Noble. Wonderful cameo from John Noble.
That was actually fairly disappointing to me. Nothing got resolved. Nothing got set up. Nothing changed. Outside
we don't really learn much about their history.
Well,
really.
I mean, we learn a little bit, which is like John Noble wanted to toughen him up, unlike his other brother.
Well, and also, like, I guess it's amazing that he's alive, but it was this episode that they told us he was dead. So,
because to trick Billy into meeting him, and then they turned,
right. But it's not like I thought he was dead all this time, and now what? He's alive. It's like I thought he was alive.
I was a little confused. I was like, did I hear that wrong?
He's dead.
Oh,
no,
wait,
he's alive.
No, it's a setup.
Yeah.
I feel like this is setting us up for a later event. Like we needed to have this conversation for something later, so I'm just banking that one away. Anything else on Butcher, Baker, Candlestick Maker?
Did this episode was the one where Black Noir died?
Oh, that's right.
Is that Maeve who kills him?
Yeah, shoves an almond joy in his face, and
right, because he had a nut allergy, and that's what allows Huey to escape.
Spoiler alert for the comic books. In the comic books,
he's allergic to milk.
No, in the comic books, they eventually unmask him, he is a clone of Homelander. That's why he never talked, and that's why he always kept his face covered. So it was a major reveal. So obviously,
I hope that's not the case.
No. I mean, you see his face. It's definitely not a Homelander clone.
I didn't see that.
I don't know that he's dead, though. It seems like they left it ambiguous enough that they could very easily say, well, he had a tough go, but,
somebody got to him with his EpiPen and just in time. Yeah. Yep, I think that's probably true. All right, that is The Boys, Season 2, Episode 7. We will be getting to Fargo, do not fear. We are watching it and banking those for after Lower Decks and The Boys are done, which is next week. So next week, the finale of Lower Decks, the finale of The Boys, and Episode 9 of Lovecraft Country. Thanks for supporting us, patreon.com/Cordkillers. We'll spoil you again next week.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.